Welcome back to Candy's Classic Game Shrine, everyone. And today on Tinker Time DIY, I'm going to show you guys how to replace the shell on your Nintendo Switch and your Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. What you're going to need for today's project is a Joy-Con and Switch shell replacement kit. There's a whole bunch of them. I got mine on Amazon. This is the, they're supposed to look like the Funtastic N64 colors. And my Joy-Con replacement in particular is the one with the D-pad. So, what you're gonna need, obviously, a set of Joy-Cons, a Switch, and your shells, and some screwdrivers. Let's get started. So to start out with, you're gonna wanna take one of your Joy-Cons, and you're gonna wanna remove the 4 00 sized tri-wing screws here, 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 and here. Now be careful when you go to pry open the controller. There will be small ribbon cables attached to both sides, so use caution. Now that it's taken apart, be careful of the shoulder buttons as well. They tend to pop out. There we go. And here is the inside of your Joy-Con. You're going to want to detach the battery, since we'll be working with this, and you're going to have to basically gut the entire Joy-Con. So be prepared for this. Now from here on out, you're going to want some 00 Phillips head screwdrivers, Phillips head screws to remove pretty much the rest of it. We can start with the easy side and removing the rail here, since there's not much to the back plate of the Joy-Con. This is the release button, don't lose that. We can set this aside, we're not going to need this anymore. I wouldn't throw it out in case you want to change out the shell again, but it's definitely not needed for the rest of the procedure. Now for this half, we're going to remove the screw here and here and here. This is what holds the battery plate in, and we're going to be replacing this part too. Here we go. Now mind you that there is a ribbon cable here, so be careful. We're gonna have to remove the shoulder buttons too. So let me move these screws somewhere safe and let's continue. So for our next part, I have to show you guys as closely in the camera as I can. Let's see if I can get this on camera well. These little tabs here are what are holding the ribbon cable for the shoulder button, and we need to release those so we can free this piece here. I recommend using a flathead screwdriver, or in my case, I use a metal dental pick. It's what I use for when I make amiibo and a whole bunch of other stuff. There we go. It's flipped up. In the up position, you can see one with the down position right next to it, and then it should gently come out. Next up, what we're going to want to do is free this board from the front of the Joy-Con. What you're going to have to be aware of is that this is going to allow all the buttons to be free afterwards, so be careful. You're going to want to remove the screws here and here that hold down the Joy-Con rocker, and then the screw here, and I believe that's it for this board. Okay, so upon seeing this further, you will have to remove this ribbon cable here. So I'm gonna grab my dental pick, flick open that gate, and this one. Okay, so in order to remove this, the best thing to do is to get a plastic little wedge like this. They're very thin and they're known to help electronics in little situations such as this. So I recommend taking the tip, going in through here or here. Make sure you don't get the copper wires that run along the bottom, and gently pry it up. And then this is what it should look like. Next up, we're going to be removing the button here. And again, we're gonna have another little sticky board here that we're gonna have to work with. This is gonna take some gentle prying. There's some little clips here that hold this button in, and also be aware that there are springs. And here we are. This is the shoulder button ribbon cable. And then now this can be discarded. Now it's time to reassemble. We have something else to do. I just realized that my kit had come with the replacement buttons for in here. So we have to do one more step, unfortunately. So what we're gonna need to do is unscrew this little board here and just replace the buttons with the new ones. This should be a simple swap job. Almost ready to reassemble. And this is what you should see. Now in order to replace these, you just tip it and they fall out. Pretty self-explanatory. You're gonna wanna take the little silicone pads. Don't drop them and lose them. And then you're gonna take your replacement ones. Make sure you have an SL and one SR per Joy-Con. They are labeled. Next up, you replace the buttons. In the process, I accidentally knocked this button out, so I need to replace that like so. And now we can put this back on. And there we go, reassembled. If you want, double check your buttons, make sure they press. Perfect. Now we're going to be attaching this rail to this. This required one screw here to fasten it. Again, always check your buttons, make sure they lock. Perfect. Now we have to put together the battery compartment, which is this piece right here. Okay, I'm going to start by reassembling the shoulder button assembly by placing this little board here. There's little guides on the shell itself to help you remember where it was, and one screw goes right there. Okay, your board is safely on. Next up is the part that I'm gonna hate, these tiny little springs. There's two little posts right here and right here that you're gonna place the springs into. Okay, I finally have them pinned down. Next up, you're gonna match that up and snap it in. And if all goes well, that's what it should sound like. That's what it should look like. So let's start by replacing the buttons, shall we? With this kit, there are colored buttons that you can use to replace. Mine are the Famicom colored, so I kind of like these better than the black ones. I'm gonna move these to the side. And if you don't remember what anything looks like, I mean, you can always Google a controller, or in this case, I have another one that we can use as a mirror. Yeah, no, Nintendo should have definitely came out with these originally. Once these are in place, you can take this little silicone pad and secure it back on. Now we need to replace the plus button. Here's the silicone for it. Next up is the home button. Let me make sure I put this in correctly. Nope, put it in upside down. There we go. And here is the silicone padding for it. Next up is to place this piece here back along the Joy-Con. And don't forget we have a little ribbon cable here that we need to attach. Here's the tricky part. Now we need to replace everything that was in this half of the shell. Next up, the two screws that you're going to want to replace are the holes right here and here. Now we can finally add this piece. I feel like such a dummy for not having done this sooner. Basically, first you're gonna attach this to that little spot here. We'll deal with that button when we get there. Flip open the gate. And just slide it in there.
3 hours later.
Holy crap. Now that that is over and that ribbon cable's attached, we can attach this button here. And now you can finally place the cap on. And this is what it should look like. Make sure all of your buttons press correctly. And then if it does, then you can close it back up. I almost forgot, before we close it up, we need to put 3 screws on here to secure everything. And there you have it, one working Joy-Con. Next, I'll be showing you how to replace the other Joy-Con shell, because not all Joy-Cons are created equal. The left and right are different. Okay, now to do the second Joy-Con, the left Joy-Con, taking it apart is pretty much the same. There's just a few different things internally. You're going to remove the 4 screws again on the corners. It is a 00Y or tri-wing head. And that's pretty much the last of the tri-wing that you're going to need. Everything else from here on out is going to be Phillips. 00 as well. And much like the right controller, there are going to be ribbon cables, so be careful when you open it. So, if you want, we can start off by removing this rail here. Okay, this we won't need anymore. This can go in a discard pile. We're gonna grab our shell. This is everything. Now this can attach to this. Okay. Now the back of this is finished. Next up, we have to remove the battery. And we need to remove these 4 screws here and the one right here to free up the battery compartment. Okay, in order to free this up, you can lift this gate here underneath, and this should be able to come right out. And then there should be two more, forgive me. One right here and one right here that will help you free up this board too. So. Okay, that can get put to the side for now. What we're gonna wanna do is pretty much take out all the screws you see. So the one here, the 2 here, the 1 here, and underneath this ribbon cable is going to be 1 more screw. So let's get to work. Okay, it's almost time for reassembly. We need to remove the ZL button here. There we go. Here's the two springs like we had before. Here's our button. And now we need to remove this little board here. I'm going to now replace the springs and the button. So again, we look for those posts like we did on the last one, and we place the springs on top of them. Next up is to get the silicone pads and buttons and whatnot ready for this. This we're going to leave for last. However, we are going to need the minus button, the D-pad button that comes with the kit that I bought, and the home button, or capture button, which is right here. And time to screw everything down. Well, almost everything down. We're going to screw down the Joy-Con a bit because this covers some of it. So we have to be careful. Or not that part. This part covers it. So we have to get some of the ribbon cables taken care of. So now that I fixed the shoulder button here, we're going to take this back battery plate and attach this ribbon cable into this little compartment right there. And there we are. This still needs to go in, so I'm not tightening it just yet. So I was an idiot. I have to take this off because I forgot that these ribbon cables need to go underneath this back plate. So you're gonna line it up and you're gonna put this ribbon cable underneath here. Let me just show you. You put this one under here and this one goes right under here. Okay, now that the ribbon cables are attached, you can now put the 5 screws and the battery back. And here we go. This is pretty much nearly assembled now. We just need to put the battery back. Here we go, just like this. And then the battery gets plugged into this little bit right here. And once you've snapped everything together, this is pretty much what it should look like. We still need to replace the 4 screws in the corners, but let's go ahead and do that. All right, everyone, and here is your completed controller. All buttons are clicky. Here's the 2 of them side by side. Next up, I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace the back plate on your Nintendo Switch. This should be much easier than the Joy-Cons. Basically, you're going to be removing a few screws. You're going to be removing the screws here, 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 here. You're going to remove this center screw here, this center screw here, and the screw on the top, as well as the screw hiding here, and then the two on the bottom here. They're all tri-wing, they're all 00. Oh, nope, I lie. They're 00, but they're tri-wing and Phillips. So let's go ahead and unscrew those. Okay, so in theory, this should come off now. I don't know if you need that opened or not, but I'm gonna open it. There's no game in mind. I made sure to remove that afterwards. And in theory, this should pop up. And there it is. This is dirty. I should get some compressed air and clean this out. Give me a minute. Okay, now that you've unscrewed the back plate, this is what your Switch should look like. There's a few things that we're gonna need to take off of the old case and put on the new one, but it's not too much. We're basically just gonna have to unscrew the kickstand and get the mechanism that holds it in place to transfer it, and the card slot needs to be transferred. And here we go. This is the other little piece that we need. So this can finally be moved. We can bring this into place. Here's our kickstand that came with the kit. This is the game slot mechanism. We are going to stick the the kickstand here where it should be, because now it's time to lock it in place. That's in place. Now we just need to put this in place. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. We have one more screw for the kickstand. We have this one here. And there's the kickstand working. Now it's time to reassemble this on your Switch. So take your Switch, find the top. This would be the top for me. Place this gently back over your Switch. And there you have it, guys. It is finished. Here is your back. And here are your Joy-Cons. And here it is. And now I'd like to take a moment out to thank my Patreon supporters, the Side Quest Gamer, Michael Carter, and Barclay Crazy. Thanks so much for your support. If anyone else would like to be a Patreon supporter of mine, the link is in the description below.